Hello and welcome to another edition of The Blast Show, brought to you by our sponsors Kia, John Pye Auctions and Red Dot Tours, the Sri Lankan cricket and holiday specialists. Coming up, we have an exclusive interview with Christopher Henry Gayle. We have another cricket brain with Middlesex wicketkeeper John Simpson. But first of all, it's time to welcome today's guest, a stalwart of ESPN CricInfo, a star of England cricket, and most importantly for me, Surrey cricket, Mark Butcher. Hello, Mark.
Hello, Norcross. How are you, sir?
I'm extraordinarily well. I'm rather enjoying this tournament. The sun is beginning to shine. Yeah. Summer is on its way. That cold nip, it'll soon be a distant memory.
Well, let's hope so. Yeah, because there's nothing that brings those crowds in than a good summer evening. So yeah, let's say goodbye to the nip.
Well, you've just returned from India, where you've seen some IPL. Your career, towards the end of your career, was really sort of the beginning of T20. It exploded, didn't it, in this country in 2003, 2004. You were playing under Adam Hollyoake.
Yeah.
How much do you think the game has changed, both tactically, I guess, and in terms of the way players prepare?
Well, if you go back to 2003, the game was a joke. The players kind of took it as such. The Surrey team that won the first tournament back in 2003 basically just used to rock up. No real plans, no real idea of any sort of specific training, and just went out and won it because they were a good team.
Really? So you'd have no sort of team talk beforehand? You'd say nothing about what you were trying to do in the first 6 overs? Or
No.
Wow.
I mean, all of that has changed greatly because the competition has now become hugely important, not only to players in terms of trying to further their career aspirations, but also to the clubs, obviously, in terms of finances. Being successful in 2020 cricket is very, very important to the club. So, things have moved on a lot. One of the things that I hugely enjoyed, for the first time in my career, probably around about sort of 2006, for the first time in my career, I went into net sessions, pre-season sessions, looking to hit the ball as far as I could. Now, I'd been a professional batsman for 16 years up until that point, and I'd never done that before. 2020 kind of all of a sudden gave you a freedom to sort of go out there and just enjoy striking the ball. It's something that obviously we're seeing now to the absolute maximum, to the nth degree, as we see players inventing shots, clearing the ropes by some distance. But it was something I'd never done before.
Now, these 2020 styles, if we like, and we're seeing people like Sam Billings arrive, and Jason Roy. Jason Roy particularly intrigues me because I saw him most, I guess, in T20 and 50-over cricket to start with. And now I'm starting to see his T20 and ODI and 50-over style actually work in the 4-day game. Do you think that's something else we're also going to see?
We've seen it already. David Warner, there's the example you need. But there are players all over the place. We just have to open our minds to the possibility. One
of the players we've talked about an enormous amount on the Blast Show is a man who's not going to be in the country for much longer. So we sent Andrew Miller hot-footing it down to say hello to the world boss and find out how much he'd enjoyed his stint with Somerset.
Well, Chris, 2 games into your big Blast debut, I mean, it couldn't really have gone more swimmingly from a personal point of view, could it?
Yeah, from a personal point of view, it's fantastic. To get a 90, then get a 100, it's fantastic. It's a great way to start the summer here in England, so it's fantastic, and I'm really happy to be with Somerset. The fans were fantastic in both games. The first game, it's an away game for us, and they're actually cheering for Chris Gayle, and so it was really fantastic, and that was very pleasing to see. And I'm glad I gave them something to actually cheer about as well. Whenever we play in England, you always get the sort of reception. It's fantastic from their side as well, and they let you feel like you're at home. They let you feel welcome as well. So that was very pleasing. So I find the time to actually straight after the game. I think I spent maybe an hour in Chelmsford to sign autograph, taking selfies. Then when I go back home in Somerset, I did the same thing as well. So it was fantastic to actually spend a bit of moment with them off the field. They want to be entertained. They pay the money to get entertained as well. So I try and do it. Sometimes it might not happen with the bat, but when I'm on the field, I might do something outrageous, and then it's entertainment as well. That's our part. That's part of our culture. That's what we West Indian love to do.
Obviously, it's pleasing to see you're 333 on your back, a tribute to obviously your highest Test score. Just a reminder that you've been there, done that.
Exactly, twice as well. Okay, 2 triple centuries. They all say, "Oh, Chris is the king of T20. Chris is the this and that of T20." I am the king of Test cricket too. Okay, I scored 2 triple centuries. Don't forget that. and 21 ODI centuries. Okay, so I'm the king of something. I think all formats. I am the king of all formats.
And on that note, I mean, how long are you going to carry on being the king? Any intention of abdicating in the near future?
Well, the king is kind of a bit down now with a back injury. The king is struggling, so he's trying to keep his own together. Hopefully, I'd love to play a few more international games, to be honest with you. And but we just have to wait and see.
The Caribbean Premier League coming up next. I mean, yet another change of format, change of continent. I mean, it's as you say, it must be hard to keep up with yourself at times.
Yeah, but I'm definitely looking forward to the CPL. That's a party. That's the real party sport where you can have a drink before and after the game. But kids don't try that at home. But that's the main objective of CPL too. Then you have fun. The overseas guys, come to the Caribbean, they'll love it. They go on the beach, they chill, have a bit of rum, and then, but on the field we play hard cricket, because at the same time, we all want to win the tournament as well.
Well, fantastic interview there with the world boss, world king, Butch. He was world boss last week, now he's world king. Is this a demotion or a promotion?
He didn't even say world king, did he? He was just king, and I think that's definitely a demotion from world boss. Maybe that's got something to do with the fact that his back's hurting him a bit, so he can't quite boss the entire world. Just has to be king of the country he's in at the present.
Well, 328 runs in 170 balls with 29 sixes. He averages 328 at the moment.
Yes.
He's got one more game to play, just the one more, against Surrey. We'll look at that later on in the show.
Yeah.
He's not, we've heard today, going to play against Glamorgan. So he's going to go back to the Caribbean Premier League. He mentioned that slightly wonky back. It's going to be a loss to the tournament, isn't it? Because we've kind of got incredibly fond of him in only 3 games.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's unfortunately not sort of appeared to a wider audience than the matches that he's played in yet, because none of the games he's played in have been televised, which is a real shame for the sort of the competition as a whole. But yeah, I mean, the more players of his stature can come over, stay for a little while longer, we hope, the more the profile of the competition goes up. Listen, you don't have to sell the 2020 Blast to the people that go along and watch it and enjoy it and understand how great it is in terms of entertainment. But what you could do, what the competition could do with, is more Henry Gales to kind of bring in a wider scope, a wider vision for the sport itself.
Well, we had a bit of that actually last week, didn't we? Because England players were made available for their counties. I was at a thrilling game. I mean, one of the most exciting games of cricket I've seen, just full stop, was Yorkshire against Lancashire at Headingley, a packed house. Josh Butler, such a mature display. And it wasn't just that he was clearing the boundary and getting 17 runs in the last over. It was the way he farmed the strike. I mean, he looked like a seasoned international, and he's only been at it, a year and a half. Yeah,
I mean, but therein is the difference, or the confidence that being successful at international cricket gives you. You come back and play for your county, come back and play in the Blast, and suddenly, you're striding around out there 5 foot taller than everybody else. It's your stage. People are looking up to you in your team to kind of do things like that, and the opposition are very, very worried about you. So it's fantastic to see the England players involved. Again, it'd be wonderful to see them more. And when they are involved, great to see them sort of dominating the competition. That's what you really, really want from those big names.
Moeen Ali, of course. Moeen Ali hit a 90-odd, but was perhaps more remembered last week for being involved in a curious incident in which Worcestershire, Ben Cox stopped being a wicket-keeper for 2 overs. Syed Ajmal and Moeen Ali doing the bowling. Keeper inside the 30-yard circle, had to get rid of all his protective gear. Do you think this is going to catch on?
Possibly. I mean, obviously it depends very much on your run rate being, or the run rate required being soaring, really. And the fact that you're not really looking to take any wickets, because obviously you lose the option of stumps and caught behinds if you're out there. But listen, I don't think anyone should be po-faced about it. I think it's a terrific invention in the midst of many terrific inventions that 2020 cricket has brought. You take the risk by not having the keeper in. I don't have a problem with it.
One thing I do have a problem with is Surrey's current form. I dare say you do too. Yeah. It's getting a little bit alarming. They played Essex. Essex, it was a must-win game for Essex. They'd lost 4 of their first 5. Surrey lost, Essex chasing, Papara back. What do you make of that game?
Yeah, I mean, a big crowd again, so that's always terrific news for the clubs. To get 20,000 plus in is a great effort. Yeah, it's not been a great start for Surrey, but I will go back to my IPL experience. Mumbai Indians had started even worse.
course, yeah.
And they went on to go and win the entire competition. So 14 games is a long way. Sorry, got 10 to go. They're going to have to start winning a few, but I don't think alarm bells should be ringing just yet.
Sage words from a fine cricket brain, which brings me clunkily to a rather bad segue. It's time for a regular feature on this show. We sent Mel Farrell to go and talk to John Simpson and find out just how much he knew about cricket.
John Simpson, thank you for taking the CricInfo Cricket Brain Challenge. Your time starts now. At which ground did you find the Barnes, Wyatt and Holly stands?
Having a clue.
Who captained the losing side in the 2015 World Cup final?
Brendan McCullum.
True or false, Surrey's Anish Kapil is the son of the former Indian captain Kapil Dev?
No.
Correct. Which England bowler took a hat-trick during the 2015 World Cup?
Stuart Broad.
Incorrect. It was Stevenson. Did Sachin Tendulkar make 41, 51 or 61 Test centuries?
51.
Correct. Who was stranded on 98 not out in England's first match in the 2015 World Cup?
Joe Root.
Incorrect, James. Which county plays occasional home games at Oakham School?
Leicester.
Correct. Shaiman Anwar scored which country's first World Cup century in 2015?
Afghanistan.
Incorrect. The United Arab Emirates. Which England player of the 1990s was born in Hong Kong?
Pass.
It was Dermot Reed. Who scored successive centuries for Bangladesh in the 2015 World Cup, including one against England?
Mahmudullah.
Correct. For which county did Bob Taylor play?
Derbyshire.
Correct.
No, that being a keeper.
Who scored successive centuries for Bangladesh in the 2015 World Cup, including one against England? Oh no, I asked you that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Mahmudullah.
Well, sorry, true or false? Moeen Ali is Kabir Ali's brother.
True.
False.
False.
They're cousins. And which county won its first outright championship for 77 years in 2011 but was relegated the following season?
Lancashire.
Correct. And for your bonus question, who would win a fight out of Jason Bourne and James Bond?
James Bond.
I'm sorry, that's incorrect, but thank you for
Fair
taking the CricInfo Cricket
Pleasure.
Brain Challenge. Wait
No
there,
worries.
wait there. You finished with a total of...
I told you I didn't know much about the game.
It's a pretty good performance, I think, from John Simpson. 7 points. Butch doesn't quite get past Jack Brooks at the top of the table with 9, but not bad nonetheless.
No, not bad at all. Perhaps that's why he wears the headbands. Keep those big brains in, Jack Brooks.
It's a plausible enough explanation. Now, let's take a look at the tables. The tables, they're so bunched, Butch. They're so bunched. You've got Durham right at the top. They played more games, but they still lost 3. There are no unbeaten sides in both the North and the South groups. There's nobody out of the competition yet, and there's nobody guaranteed to go through yet.
Well, that's the way you'd want it, isn't it? Just as we get to the point of the summer where the weather starts to get better, you need that interest. That's one of the great advantages of having 4 sides qualify as well. So, listen, I think it's terrific that you can't pick a winner right now. There are some sides that I suspect ought to be up there come the end. I think Nottinghamshire look like they're very, very strong once again. And Birmingham as well, the champions. But other than that, I don't think there's anybody that you could say is definitely going to run away with it.
In the South group, we've both got certain concerns over Surrey.
Well, yeah.
Down in bottom place, they've lost 3 of the first 4, and they had a crunch game against Essex last week that they lost. They're playing Somerset at Taunton, the last game that Christopher Henry Gayle is going to play in this tournament. Really couldn't have worked out worse for Surrey, and yet Chief Executive Richard Gould remains buoyant and happy. He says that tickets are being sold for the Derby games later in the season. He loves this competition, but he and his fans are going to need to see a change in fortunes, you'd think.
Well, yeah, I mean, chief executives, you speak to them, their bottom line is different from coaches, isn't it? The coach wants results on the field, and the chief exec doesn't mind quite so much as long as tickets are being sold. I think, obviously playing at Taunton is always very difficult anyway. Surrey turned them over a couple of times down there last year, though, in different competitions, so they won't be massively daunted by that. But of course, having Chris Gayle in the lineup, you want to get rid of him as fast as you possibly can, because otherwise things can get messy.
Kent are the good news story, really, of the South Group. As we've mentioned already, all homegrown players had a little bit of a stutter last week, as we said, but they still remain top of the table, still going to have decent hopes of progressing.
Yeah, they're going to lose Sam Billings, which is a bit of a problem, obviously, without the sort of depth that added international players bring. you know, if you start to lose extra players, particularly ones as talented and as influential as Sam Billings, then you start to get a little bit stretched. So, you know, other teams will be looking at that and thinking they could possibly haul Kent in, but let's hope for the story value that they continue going as well as they have.
And finally, a fixture I'm very intrigued by, Birmingham Bears against Nottinghamshire Outlaws. It's a repeat of the first game of the competition, when Notts turned over Birmingham, but Birmingham have won their 3 games since, and Notts just had a little bit of a blip. An important game, that, isn't it, between 2 favourites in that group?
Yeah, and two high-quality teams as well. I saw Nottinghamshire win against Worcester the other day, and they look a very fine side.
Thanks, Butch, but I'm afraid time's winged chariot has got the better of us. It's time to say goodbye from another Blast show. It's been wonderful having you. Thanks ever so much for watching, and most of all, thanks to our sponsors, Kia, to John Pye Auctions and to Red Dot Tours, the Sri Lanka cricket and holiday specialists. I'm off to Cardiff, but Christopher Henry Gale isn't. You find yourself a game. Until next time, goodbye.